Good morning, everyone. Welcome once more to the Aurum podcast. This morning on the 7th of August, 2021. It's a new month, and especially a new month for us here at the Aurum podcast. And as you know, every new month we are having new topics to discuss in the realm of human resource and risk advisory. I'm your host. My name is Anthony Kuria. I am with my co-host, the in-house HR consultant, Zipi Kuria. Zipi, karibu sana.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yes, as you heard, this is the Aurum podcast. As you can see at the bottom of your screen, we are very welcome and we appreciate the fact that you have joined with us today. Here at Aurum, the Aurum podcast is hosted by Aurum Consultants. And we at Aurum Consultants are a limited company who specialize in human resource and risk advisory, focusing on resolving difficult human capital and business challenges. Our vision is to create, strengthen, and streamline HR systems and processes for small and medium sized enterprises. Our mission, why we exist, why we what we end up doing is to be one of the one-stop HR solutions shop for growing companies by leveraging on technology, on people, and the law. We offer services such as outsourced HR administration, we do training, we do payroll administration, we do recruitment, we do risk assessment and advisory, and we focus on pain points. You know, SMEs have a lot of pain points, but specifically on legal application and statutory compliance, on inefficient and ineffective business processes, and a big one, which is talent management. The the solutions we offer involve specifically helping SMEs comply with labor laws, yeah, and also streamlining our clients' HR processes and providing financial indemnity to various business risks. Now, this month of August, we want to discuss something that is very dear to most managers, to most entrepreneurs, something that many employees dread. It is called performance management. Performance management is something that causes people, including even management. Because if you're a manager, if you're a CEO, you probably report to a board, and they have put you on a performance scaling, and you need to be put on the scale to be found to be worthy, to be fit to continue doing that job. Now, Zippy, most employees dread performance evaluations. Yet the exercise is to help create an environment where employees can produce to the best of their abilities. Now, today I want us to discuss the fundamentals of performance management, how managers should monitor and evaluate their employees' work. Give us, basically, somebody listening to us, there's people out there who are listening to us, they're wondering, what is this performance business? Give us a hint, what exactly is it all about?
Thank you, Anthony. And good morning, our viewers. And like you've rightfully put it, I think performance management is one of those things that most of us don't want to really think about. And the reason is sometimes maybe it's because
Yes.
of lack of understanding what it is all about in the first place. And I would allow me to just start by giving an overview of what performance management is. And I would say this is a process by which managers and employees work together to plan, monitor, and evaluate different objectives that they've set. Now, as an
Okay.
organization, a lot of times when you're setting a business, you have objectives for that business. You have where you want to take this business, and you come up with objectives, you come up with goals. This is where I want to see my business in another 5 years. You have to think about how am I going to get that business there in those 5 years. And of course, in the process, you bring in
Yes.
a team that would help you work together, to achieve your dream. So what happens when you
Mm.
don't put the performance management systems in place to help you achieve that dream? So of course you have to plan, you have to monitor, you have to evaluate, you have to look back and see, have we been able to achieve? So I would say it's a process basically that helps us plan, monitor, and evaluate what we are doing as an organization. And this starts from the top to the bottom. It's not just something that is meant for the employees, but I would say even from the management perspective, they need to be able to evaluate the progress of the organization. So that means even as executives, we need to set our own goals, we need to set our own KPIs, we need to monitor those KPIs, and we need to evaluate the same. Performance management should never be an event. It should never be something we do once a year when we are doing appraisals. It should be a continuous process within the organization.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Aha. Now, the thing that sometimes people struggle with accepting, I remember when I was working, I used to hear about these things and I would wonder, okay, what is this all about? And there was the issue of, I'm dealing with a boss there and they probably don't like my face. They don't like the way I look. Or probably uh, you know, probably my personality and theirs are not flowing. So they're thinking, you know what? We'll do performance management. So, Anthony, out of 10, you've hit 4 in this one scale, you've hit 2 in another. And I remember once or twice when, especially during my early years of employment, it looked very subjective. It looked like it depends on the whim of the person you're working with. They do they like the way you look? Do they like the way you handle yourself? So when you're preparing this, and this is something I'm sure many people will, those listening to us would want to know, while we are still defining it, while we're still in this process of trying to define what performance management is there a criteria that is universal or that is customized depending on what you do, depending on the industry, depending on the role and stuff like that. I'm just wondering, speaking for somebody who is not a specialist in this area, as we define performance management, does it also come with a definition of the scaling that you should be measuring while evaluating an employee?
I think, Anthony, what we are talking about here is probably the process of the appraisal and the tools that we would use when we are doing the appraisals. And of course, you have to look at the different
Mm-hmm.
organizations and see what are you appraising and what kind of tools you need. You will find probably the
Yes.
tools you use for one department might not necessarily fit in for another department.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to
All
define
right.
the tools to suit the different organizations, the different departments, based on the KPIs, based on the goals you're trying to evaluate for the different employees. So it's very
Mm-hmm.
critical for us not to just use a generalized kind of tool to evaluate. The
Yes.
tool has to make sense because you have to
Uh-huh.
remember the process of performance management is a collaborative process. It's not a
Mm.
process as a manager or as a CEO, you come and say, this is what we are going to do, and the employer has no say into it. You have to remember
Yes.
when you're setting the goals, there has to be communication and effective communication. There has to be
Uh-huh.
collaboration between the manager and the employee. There has to
Yes.
be an understanding. This is the goals we have agreed to, to work towards. And of course, there has
Yes.
to be a process of monitoring the same and evaluating and making sure in the process, if an employee does not achieve what they need to do, you don't wait
Yes.
until the appraisal period or the end of the evaluation
Mm.
period for you to
Yes.
actually come back and say you did not perform. This needs to be a
Uh-huh.
continuous process. And those who have worked with me, I always say performance management is a continuous process. It's not an
Okay.
event where you just come and evaluate. And like you are saying, sometimes managers would use this as a tool or as a way of punishing an employee because they simply don't like them. And this beats the
Okay.
whole purpose of performance management. If you remember what I said earlier, it's supposed to
Yes.
bring us together as teams. We are supposed to plan together. We are supposed to monitor what we are doing. We are supposed to evaluate
Yes.
because we have to remember we have a common goal we are trying to achieve. This organization is going towards a certain
Mm.
direction. So all of us need to be pulling towards that direction. So how do we pull towards the same direction when one of us is trying to use this as a way of punishing the
Yes.
other person? It should never be that way, and it was never intended to be operated
Mm,
like that. So performance management is a very
okay.
great tool that we can use for the benefit of the organization. So to respond to your question, yes, different organizations need to come up with different tools that would suit that particular organization.
All right. Actually, now let's discuss about the purpose of performance management. Because as you know, again, as you know me, I like using practical examples, contextual examples of what we do here at Aurum Consultants and
Mm.
what we have done in the past when we were in the employment sector, when we were employed. And, I remember, just to give you an example, let's say you're a salesperson, business development, you're in sales. You're told, okay, your salary is, say, 20,000. That's what you'll be getting as a retainer. And you need to be selling, say, I remember one time I think I was selling some things to do with credit cards. And I was told, if you sell at cards worth a minimum of cash brought in, if the customers use 10 million in a month, they use their credit card to spend 10 million, will give you 10%. Is it 10% or 1%? It was a very funny figure. I mean, it was a figure where I think it was either 1 million, 1% or 5%. It was, and the amount that you're supposed to sell is really big. So I remember when I looked at the contract, I asked my supervisor, the boss, how do you intend us to achieve these kind of figures? We are launching a product. It is new in the market. We don't even understand the product in the market. We don't know the size of the credit card market. We are supposed to sell this card this card is supposed to enter and fight the established brands that are already there in the market. And we are supposed to sell these. And I'm looking at the commission structure. So I wanted to, to just see whether there is room for negotiations to understand how did you arrive to these figures. How realistic are they? Can we be able to sell to somebody out there a credit card for them to go and spend 1 million, 5 million, 10 million within 45 days, so that you can make your, I think it was 1% or 10%, I can't remember the figures. So when we think about that in terms of what is the purpose of performance management, uh, can employees design together with their supervisors um, the process management metrics which they're supposed to be using under the auspices of the purpose? What is the purpose of performance management? Is that possible?
Of course, it's possible and it's what it should be. And I would say the purpose of performance management is to create an environment where an employee is able to actually perform to the best of their ability. As managers, we need to
Uh-huh.
create that environment that employees are able to give their best. They are able to perform at their optimum. Now, when it
Yes.
comes to having to agree on what I need to achieve, we always say you
Mm.
need to use the SMART model to be able to set your
Mm-hmm.
goals. Now, when you're setting these
Mm-hmm.
goals of as an employee or as a manager, when you're
Yes.
thinking about setting these goals, you need
Mm-hmm.
to communicate clearly to your team members. There has to be
Uh-huh.
communication, there has to be collaboration. I can't just walk in and tell you these are your goals and I expect you to achieve them. We have to understand
Yes.
one another. Are they achievable? Because you have to remember, in as much as I am your manager, the employee down there is the one who is actually
Mm.
doing the work. So they need to be able to actually agree that
Mm-hmm.
this is actually achievable. It's possible for me to be able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to get to that place of looking at the smart model and looking at it. Is the goal specific? Is it attainable?
Mm-hmm.
Is it time bound? Are we going to measure this? Is it measurable? So once you define
Mm-hmm.
all those parameters based on the goal you have set, and you know you are
Yes.
able to agree on those parameters, then it becomes easier for you to agree. Now, when you just tell an employee these are your goals and I expect you to achieve, and they're not in
Mm-hmm.
agreement, what happens when you come to evaluate? then you
Mm-hmm.
might find a situation where the employee was not able to achieve those goals. And what would
Yes.
happen at that point, as a manager, you start seeing
Mm-hmm.
these employees not performing. But remember what happened in the first place. When you're agreeing on these goals, there was no agreement. There was no clear communication or clear way of working together to to make sure we are achieving the goals, working towards a common goal. So again, the purpose of having performance management is to make sure also we are creating
Okay.
an environment
Mm-hmm.
where employees are able to perform at their optimum. We are able to give them the opportunities, the tools to give the best of their abilities. So that is what I would say the purpose of a performance management is.
Aha, that is very good. To our listeners, those watching through Facebook, you are invited to send your comments. You can send your comments, you can send questions, you can back up whatever we are saying. If you want to understand more about what is this all about, performance management, if you have had an experience either as a manager, as an employer, as an entrepreneur, founder of a business, or if you're employed somewhere and you're wondering, okay, how do we handle this? I've been through this, um, I've been undertaken through something and I don't know how exactly it goes. So, whatever it is, kindly send in your questions and comments. Would love to discuss them here even as we continue. Now, I like the fact that you've used this acronym of SMART. You know, they're specific, they are measurable, they are achievable, they are realistic, and that they are time bound. And the fact that everything is put in place for you to be able to achieve. The other day I was talking to one of our staff, and they told me something very interesting. They told me that they had worked in one of these major banks, major international banks. They were, these multinational banks. And she told me that working there as a salesperson, the company, because now she was there to help sell the bank's product, the training that they were receiving in order to enable them to achieve their goals was of a very high caliber. And I'm thinking of that because that brought the fact that the employer expected a certain standard of performance. The employer expected you to be able to sell all the various products, but they also invested in their staff to give them the necessary tools to be able to sell the same, to be able to achieve their performance targets. Now, an SME, somebody who is listening to us, who is probably running a school or running, a small manufacturing shop, may say, I don't have the budget of an ABSA bank or Equity Bank or EABL to be able to be sending my people out there to be able to train them, for them to be able to achieve the necessary performance. Just as we think, as we are beginning this process of discussing performance management, from your perspective, what is it that employers can do that is both cost effective but also enables their staff? You've given me a job to be, say, a teacher. You've given me a job to be the store's clerk, and you've given me a job as a cashier. You've given me your performance, but then some of the things or your expectations and my capabilities, there is a gap. How is there a way employers can be able to help their staff attain the skills that enables them meet their KPIs without having to go out of pocket for themselves? What do you think about that?
I think one of the things we can do as SMEs is to look at what we have in house. And I think as a
Yes.
business person, you are the greatest resource these employees can have. You are the vision bearer. You know what you
Hmm.
want for your organization.
Hmm.
So, most of the time, and especially for us
Yes.
SMEs, we don't take time to actually help our teams understand what we are about, where we are going, how we are going there. A lot of times we bring in people and we expect they know, so they should do. So we don't take time to help them understand
Mm.
our own business. So I would say let's start from here now first. Let's train our people to understand our business, our product. What are we trying to sell? What kind of customer service do we want to give out there. And of course, this will come back to other things like systems, setting up systems and helping them, know how they need to operate in different dynamics. So basically, even before you go to the issue of having to measure performance, it's important for us to give the staff good tools, and that would include training and training about our organization, setting clear mission and vision, setting clear goals, having clear values, them understanding this is what we do here at Aurum Consultants, and this is my place, this is where I belong, this is what my bosses expect of me as an employee working within this organization. Then once they start understanding the organization, it becomes very easy for them to now be able to tackle their jobs and do their jobs in a way that you're expecting them to do. It makes it easier for you to start saying, okay, now we need to start evaluating how you're working. We need to start evaluating, are you able to achieve the goals that we have agreed on? So basically, I would say utilize the tools we have. As a lead person in your business, you're the greatest resource for your team members.
Okay. Thank you, Zippy. I can see there are comments coming in. Nyar Mama Kata Moni is saying, Morning Zippy, well done. That's the correct meaning of performance management. You can also include rewarding employees. Now, they have also asked another question. They're asking, Morning Anthony, kindly explain to us the difference between evaluating and rating in performance management. Zippy, can you kindly give us a brief understanding of between evaluating and rating in this particular aspect?
I'm not so sure whether there's much of a difference between those two terms, evaluating and rating. And I think rating comes in when you're using the tool
Yes.
of appraisal, all right? Depending on the kind of a tool you're using, you might find sometimes they are weighting. There's a way you weight the different goals and get the percentage of how this person is performing or has performed. While evaluating, we are looking at different parameters. We are looking at not just one element, but we are looking at different aspects of how you've been able to perform. We are looking, when you're evaluating, you are looking at how you've been able to do, what you've been able to achieve, what were your challenges, what could have been done better, and what can you do to improve this performance. So when you're looking at the two, the rating, you're using it as a weighting measure when you're doing the performance appraisal. But when you're evaluating, you're looking at a bigger perspective or the bigger picture of how this employee has been doing and what can be done better. You are able to look at what were the challenges, how can we mitigate these challenges so that, again, these challenges don't appear in the next evaluation period.
Okay. Thank you. And when we talk about rating, for example, you find different companies use different ratings. You'll find out of 10, you've been rated 7.2. Another one has rated you 8.1, 6.5, all those kind of metrics that come up either because of statistical compilation and all that, based on the evaluation process that was used. Now, the next thing that comes to my head, just somebody who, me representing somebody out there who is wondering, okay, since my boss has decided, or since our company has decided to use a performance management system, then I'm still wondering, what is the importance of performance management? Why should we be subjected to this torture? There are people who call the Zippy. You and I know we have dealt with where we've dealt with people. Our clients tell us, okay, we want to put in place a performance management system. And when we initially present this to the employees, you can see the resistance. You can see the hardness of the face. They're wondering, sasa huyu amekuja kutumwagia unga. So, for those who are listening and wondering, this performance management system, why is it important? What would you say to them?
So let me ask you a question. Have you ever asked yourself this question, why two businesses who are in the same field, doing the same things, you find one is doing very well, another one is probably struggling? Have you ever wondered sometimes why? What could be some of the reasons? And I think
Well,
if, if you look
mhm,
deeply, you will find probably the one that might be doing well. While there are other factors, one of the key
mhm,
things would be how they do things internally, how they
mhm,
make sure they set clear goals and where they want to go, and how they evaluate that so that they make sure they're improving on the same. Now, I always say
mhm,
if you don't, what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. A lot of times,
mhm,
and even in your own personal life, there are times you will say, I want to do this, but you don't have a way of measuring or looking back to see whether you've been able to achieve. So, what doesn't get
mhm,
measured, the truth is, it will
mhm,
rarely get done. So, it's important for us to
mhm,
understand that. And that will be one of the key importance of having a performance management so that you can measure what everyone is doing. Can you imagine having
mhm,
50, 100, 1,000, 2,000 employees? And you're
mm.
expecting them to pull towards a certain direction, but you have no
Yes.
way of making sure this is happening. So how do you make sure all these
Mhm.
people are working towards a common goal? There should be a way of measuring that. And of course, this is where performance
Yeah.
management comes in. So I would say the other thing as a business person, when you set up a business, you are looking at this business being effective, being efficient, and the end goal you want to be able to make profit. Now, you can't make
Mhm,
profit if your systems are not working towards helping you achieve that. So it's important for us to
mhm.
know that the performance management would help us achieve those goals to a certain extent. As a business person, I need to have my own KPIs. It's not just a team members. I'm telling you guys, performance is for you. Me,
Aha.
I don't have to
Yeah.
measure my own performance. As a team leader, as a CEO, do you have the KPIs? You need to lead from the front. Yeah, a lot of times I've seen, and I know we'll talk about this as we go along. I've seen a lot of times performance management is left to the HR or to the line managers. But the truth is, performance management is for everyone within the organization, the entire organization, from the board to the
Mm,
person on the ground. All of us have a certain
mm,
role to play, and we need to be able to measure how we are performing at our own individual levels. The other thing I would say, it helps
mhm,
organizations align their employees, their resources, and the system so that they can meet the strategic objectives. So again, when you have performance management in place, it helps alignment. So it's important for us to know it's very critical to have performance management, but not just for the employees, but from the top to the bottom. It needs to be, we need to get to that place of creating a culture. We need to move performance management from being this big elephant to being the culture and our way of doing things so that it doesn't get looked at from a place of, I'm being victimized here. I'm being put in a situation where I am not
yes.
comfortable in. We need to make it
Uh-huh.
a culture in our own organization if this is going to benefit us.
Wow, 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 wow. I like the fact that you've said from the board chair to the board members to the CEO to the top managers to the middle managers to the employees on the shop floor, everybody ought to be on a KPI system. Everybody ought to be on a management, performance management system, and to be able now to go for it. Because once you are all on a management performance on a performance management system, then we all know where we lie. You have your KPIs, I have mine. And as a manager, I achieve my KPIs through my team. And therefore, I have got to find a way to get my team to run to be able to be able to achieve their KPIs and through them my own. Lois Wanjiko has asked a question here. And I like the question she's asked. She says the topic is very key. Kindly guide me on how I can evaluate performance management of a large workforce doing the same job. The example she has given is working for a transport company where most of our employees are truck drivers and most of the time they are on on the road. So she's wondering, how do I evaluate performance of a large workforce doing the same thing? I presume, Lois, you're saying, like for example, how do you evaluate the performance of drivers who are all, somebody is in Mombasa, another one is in Kampala, another one is probably in Kigali, Juba, and all that. Zip, is there a hint that you can give Lois on how she can do it and how we can assist her on the same?
So again, let me say you can't evaluate if you have not set a clear way of doing this. It's important for you to start from the basics. for you to be able to get to the place of you can evaluate the performance. You need to be very clear from the word go with these drivers of this team of employees you're working in this organization. You need to be very clear. These are the expectations. These are the basic KPIs we expect for you to meet. And I know the transport industry can be, again, a bit of a challenge, like you're saying, because I've interacted with that industry where you are having drivers probably working in different scenarios. But the key will be take, for example, you need to do a number of trips. And that can be a KPI. We expect you to do this number of trips in a week or in a month. And that can be a clear KPI of looking at it and saying, were you able to achieve this? If you're not able to achieve, why were you not able to achieve? A lot of times I think we just throw information out there and we don't get to have a sitting with our team members to help them understand this is how we are going to measure your performance. This is the behavior probably we expect from you that would help you achieve this. Because sometimes when you're dealing, especially with the low cadre staff, if you don't get to the basics of helping them understand, it will become very difficult to actually
Yes.
start evaluating. You probably need to look at things like how they are utilizing their fuel. For example, you need to look at the vehicle maintenance. How are they maintaining this vehicle? So there's a lot of other things you can look at, but you need to look at what are the key elements of them getting to be successful in what they're doing and what would help the organization achieve its mission, because this is the industry you're in. So it's very easy, and I think you can be able to do this. And especially when you're saying it's a large workforce, again, you have to have people reporting to different, probably different people. You have to have team leads, because I don't think as a
Yes.
manager you can manage 50 people and expect them to be effective. It's important for you
Not
probably to
true.
create smaller teams and be able to have people who are being held accountable by one person, and this becomes a continuous way of looking at it, so that you don't wait to look at it at the end of the year or at the end of 6 months, but you start looking at it from, using shorter periods. That way you can be able to measure whether this
Yes.
person is performing. And if they're not performing, because again, I don't think we need to be at that place where we're in a hurry to say this person is not performing and we need to get them out. We need to get to that place of asking, why are they not performing? What are the contributing factors? Are there issues? Are there things that we are doing as an organization that are
Yes.
making them not be able to perform? Or is it things they are doing as employees that we can help them with? We need to look at all the different angles and see how do we help them
Yes.
mitigate the challenges. So to Lois, I would say it's very it's very easy, but it can be also be very tasking. So you need to set your systems in a way that it becomes easier to evaluate. But key is to make them understand you will be evaluated based on these parameters. Because if you don't set it from the word go, it will become very difficult. And this is why you find in appraisals people getting in arguments and disagreeing because there was no agreement in the first place. You are going to measure me based on these particular KPIs.
Thank you, Zippy. That's a very good answer they've answered. And I like the way Lois has asked it because, what is measured in one company in the same industry is probably not the same way it is measured in another company in the same industry. For example, in logistics, let me give an example of I've been a banker before. I've worked with a few banks before, and I was a cashier in one bank, and I was a cashier in a different bank. And I remember one of these big banks. I was very surprised when I went there. The parameters of measuring were much more detailed in this particular institution. And I will link it to what Martin Wanjohi is asking. Doesn't what we measure matter? I will link what Lois has asked, what you've answered to Lois, and what Martin has asked, because you'll find in this particular institution, as a banker, they were not just measuring whether you have any overs and shorts. That is, you have either overpaid a client or underpaid. They're also measuring time, the time you spend with each client. They were measuring the volumes of work that you've handled in foreign currency and in Kenyan currency. They were measuring volumes, and then they were measuring the time you spend with each client. They were measuring the amount you spend in each currencies, and also measuring how many referrals. They were finding a way to measure. As a cashier, customers have asked a certain question. Have you told them to go and open a certain account with your bank? And they had a way to capture that data. Now, in this other institution where I had worked before, the only issue was, do you have any overs? Do you have any shorts? Are you consistent? That's all they measure. So to answer Martin Wanjohi, indeed, it is important what we measure. What is measured in what happens, that's why I like the way Zippy you put it. You've got to capture all the parameters of a task to be able to design a performance management system. See, like now that of a cashier. If you're to be a HR in that bank, you'd measure all the criteria and get the supervisors to explain to each new cashier as they come in, this is what we'll measure you for. And as time goes on, you're not waiting for the end of the month or end of the quarter to tell you, hey, boss, your overs and shorts are too high, or hey, boss, your volumes are too low. You're spending too many minutes with the customer. You are evaluating this as we go to be able to make the person understand, okay, this is what I'm being mentioned for. This is what is, mattering to my task, and this is why it matters. But that by the end of the quarter or half year, when they're giving me a 6.5 out of 10, I understand, okay, nimekuwa mlegevu kwa hii area, I've been stronger in this area, so what can I work on? So I want to appreciate those who are sending in the questions. We really appreciate. We appreciate the interaction that we are having. And Martin, we really appreciate, the question that you asked about whether it matters. How do we even know if what we are measuring is important? I think Zippy, probably you answered that earlier, because
Yeah.
it has to matter in terms of, is it going towards the end result of the company? For example, that example I gave of a banker, in a bank with a cashier. At the end of the day, you want to improve the productivity of that cashier. That those cashiers sitting there, they're not just giving money, receiving. No, they know I am measured on how quickly I make this turnaround, how quickly I'm able to deal with the volumes of cash that are coming in, how many clients have I been able to serve, and therefore in Forex, in this, in Western Union, in all this and that. At the end of the day, if I'm able to hold all those parameters and still not be able and still not make losses, then as a cashier, I am up there as a productive person. Okay? So
Actually, if you
Zippy, as
could
we come
allow
to
me
close.
to just touch on what Martin, my good friend, has mentioned here, and I would want him to
Yes.
come on this podcast and help us unravel this subject because he's an
Oh,
expert.
yes. Yes.
Um, what I would say in this particular issue, it does matter. And
Mm.
it is important, and we need to know it's important. And how do we know it's important? When we are
Mm.
setting the goals. What are we
Mm-hmm.
basing those goals on? And that is
Mm-hmm.
why I always say when we are setting goals, we need to look at the organizational goals or objectives.
Mm-hmm.
We need to
Yes.
break that down to departmental goals. And we need to break
Mm-hmm.
down the departmental goals to individual goals. Now, if we don't do that, the employee will not be
Mm-hmm.
able to understand the importance of this goal or this KPI we are setting. They need to understand how their KPI connects to the department and connects to the overall objective. And that's how they're going to
Mm-hmm.
understand, yes, it is important, because remember what I said, the importance of
Mm.
this
Correct.
performance management is to help us make sure we are all pulling towards the same direction. So we have to start it from the place where we are setting goals, where the employee actually
Mm-hmm. Yes.
understands the importance of what they are doing, and now is going to contribute towards the overall objective of the organization.
All right, all right. I can see our time is almost up. We are coming to the end of today's podcast, where, as I said earlier, this month of August, we are going to discuss the role of performance management, the purpose, the importance of performance management in an organization. And I heard you telling Martin Wanjohi that you might invite him soon to discuss more about this. That's what we would like to hear experts, people in any area you are an expert. You could be an employee in a certain area, you are an expert. You could be a manager, you could be a CEO, or wherever you are, you have a certain perspective from a certain vantage point that could contribute to this. Now, Zippy, as we come to the end of our podcast today, I would like to tell our viewers about the Recruit Internship Training Program. Here at Aurum Consultants, we do something we call the Recruit Internship Training Program, where which is a 3 month long business training program for fresh graduates from colleges and the university, people between 18 to 26 years old who have finished college, they have finished university, they are ready for the marketplace. And here we offer this training and it's geared towards helping these fresh graduates, the unemployed youth, balance their expectations as well as increase their chances of getting meaningful employment or sources of income. Zippy, probably you could briefly expound on the same and when the next class is beginning.
Thank you, Anthony, for that. As we talk about this issue of performance management, I think a lot of times we miss how we do this from when people are getting into an organization. And one of the things that we do with this
Yes.
program is to help these employees understand the expectations of any employer who will engage them. They'll be expected to perform to a certain level, and now they will need what they will need to do to be able to perform, the kind of behaviors they
Yes.
need to exhibit. So this is a program that we have seen a lot of people getting help. We've seen people's lives transformed. And our next class actually starts in 2 weeks' time. So if you're looking at wanting to benefit from this program, get in touch with us and we'll be happy to enroll you into the program. For employers who might be listening to us today, we partner with employers who want to use this as a way of recruiting new employees, where we equip their new team members to be able to fit into the organization.
Yes, thank you, thank you. So if you're out there, you're listening to us, you're wondering what is the recruit? It is basically equipping you with the capability to be able to get the necessary, because there's the theory that you've studied in school. You've probably seen your older brothers, your older sisters, they look sharp, whatever, smart, they look this, they're an accountant, kidogo amenunua gari, what? And you're thinking, immediately I get to the workplace, man, I'm waiting for my Subaru. Yeah, I want to go and fly out to this and that place. Or when I go in, I expect my salary quickly, 200,000, iko nini? The recruit manages your expectations. It gives you the realities of what it means to be employed. It enables employers to also get people who are anchored, family anchored. They are not floating in the sky up there thinking that everything will work for them magically. We help fresh graduates, fresh people who are ready to enter the marketplace to get the necessary skills. It's like what? It's like an induction into the workplace. And so, if you're there, you would want to know more about it, kindly get in touch with us. For that and any other issues that you may want to get in touch with us, our contacts are at the bottom of the screen. You can reach us through email, you can reach us through LinkedIn, through Facebook, through YouTube. We have all these contacts that you can get in touch with us for more information concerning this particular podcast or whatever Aurum Consultants does to offer. Zippy, thank you very much for the wise insights that you've given to us. To our listeners, thank you for logging in. Thank you for taking time on a Saturday morning to come in and listen to us. Kindly log in next time, next weekend, next Saturday, same time, same place. We will continue on this same discussion of performance management. Until next week, God bless you. Keep you safe. Nice weekend.